Hey, Russ, let's talk about another big blockbuster, and that is the film Oppenheimer. And
Yeah.
and it's considered to be another great film. I've had people on the program saying, "Don't go and see that. There's all sorts of graphic sex scenes in there, and as a Christian, you'd be very cautious, perhaps, in the way that you might choose to go and see the
Right.
film." But what are your overall impressions of Oppenheimer?
Oh, I mean, this is a amazing depiction based on a book called American Prometheus, based on J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was a part of leading the making of the original atomic bomb and really brought the atomic era in. And it's directed by one of the best directors out there, Christopher Nolan. Christopher, obviously with Dark Knight and also Inception, he's known for, but this is a biopic, 3 hours long. I went in and I'm going, oh man, 3 hours. Is this really going to keep my attention? I went with a friend of mine who's not a Christian. He admits that to not being a Christian, but was really keen to go see it with me. And they don't waste a minute. I mean, there's a huge cast. It's a 3 hour, epic film. Quality wise, it is fantastic. I mean, it is just a beautiful film. It's done exceptionally well. It's rich and well. It does have confronting content, so it's really worthwhile. They do kind of hit on some of the realities that Oppenheimer wasn't necessarily the most moral of characters, and so it does have some content, be it some sexual content and also some confronting elements of kind of the moral issues that kind of go on in somebody making what would become one of what it did. But for me, the value of it wasn't even just with the quality of the film, which I think that it was exceptionally done.
Now, when we talk,
it was the conversation afterwards that was so great. I just thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with my friend afterwards.
and when you go to see a film like that, you've gone along with your, as you say, you often will go to films with your non-Christian friends, and they might not be so concerned about, whether there's some graphic nudity in the film, but you've sat through it, and at the end of the film, though, the richness of a conversation will come when they are asking you and perhaps your thoughts about it. And of course, you're the film reviewer, so everyone's asking your thoughts. But when you're in that conversation with the non-Christian and they've had their own impressions of the film, you've got lots of richness to be able to draw on.
That's right. Well, and what's great about it too, Neil, is that you got to keep in mind too that it just starts the conversation. So these things that we have in common, so we've watched this film together, we're able to we've had this shared experience. We go through and talk about some of the big topics with this film. You talk about how do you deal with unleashing really death on the world in making of a bomb. But then on top of it, just because this man, Oppenheimer, was a genius, didn't make him wise, and some of the things he chose to do and some of the relationships that he had didn't make that. And so for me to be able to have that conversation with my friend, but then it goes beyond that. Then all of a sudden, how does that reflected in my life, and how does your faith play into that? And so then it just kind of takes you down trails. You may not even be talking about Oppenheimer or a film anymore, but you're talking about the real world. You're talking about yourselves, and it just opens the door for a rich conversation. I'm not going to necessarily tell people that they have to go see a movie like Oppenheimer to do that. I mean, if these sort of things cause you to pause or cause you to sin in your own way, or would just take you to places you don't want to go, don't see the film. I mean, I wouldn't be doing that. But if you do go see this film, what I would say is that you can use it as a catalyst to be able to talk with people about your faith.
And one of those deeper issues that you've drawn out in your own review is this thought that there is a warning for the world about the dangers of unchecked power. About the scientific advancements that might not necessarily be around an atomic bomb, but all sorts of other scientific advancements that in the wrong hands can make weapons of mass destruction. These sorts of questions, big questions of life and reality and meaning, these come out of a movie like this.
Definitely. I mean, and I think that's what they're meant to do. But then on top of it, if you're really putting it through that biblical lens, like I've said to do, you see how also we have answers, and what you can see even in the Bible. I mean, I think that's one of the things that if you're even going back to the stories of the Bible, which includes graphic scenes, death, all of the mass death and all these things that have happened throughout human history, but yet how God has not changed and he still has the answer and the solutions for us. And so really being able to go back to what we have in our faith, to be able to kind of talk to these big topics, even though they might seem new because it's a new film or maybe recent history opposed to ancient history, but yet how the answers are still the same and they are still quite satisfying, but we have to be willing to talk about them.